what we're going to see next is engineering making use of the advanced project workflow module and its concurrent engineering capabilities to find that the change that maintenance has made affects a drawing that's actually out for change on another project. And I think this slide here kind of does a good job of graphically showing that, where we've got a picture here of a large some kind of chemical plant, and the yellow boxes denote engineering projects that are going on somewhere throughout that plant. And what you can see noted is we've got some small projects and some larger projects and some overlapping projects where the same area of the plant is under change in a couple of different projects. And that gets really complicated in being able, to manage those overlapping ongoing projects while keeping the as-built available for maintenance. And that's what this tool is designed to do. Or the advanced project workflow, and again, this is another way that kind of shows it graphically, is, here this project 2 is a long-term project. While project 2 is going on, all or portions of project 1, 3, and 4 have also happened, and each one, of course, has an engineering phase, a construction phase, and then when the construction phase is done, the new as-builts are generated. And then you can see, for instance here, when project 1 is complete, its as-built needs to get passed into project 2, so the changes from project 1 and project 2 can get merged together. So I think this graphic also does a nice job of showing that interaction. So now we want to take a look at the engineering and concurrent engineering portion of things. This is a little bit longer presentation from Chris, so I'll go ahead and get that queued up here.
And I noticed that just now we received an email that red lines in the following documents were changed. And the notifications, of course, can be configured, can be built from templates, etc. In this case, we tell the maintenance the engineering manager where the release document is, and also let them know of a couple of different links. They can launch the Power User client or the web client from made by the maintenance person. So we'll make a decision here to go ahead and make a change. We'll go ahead and make this change. Now, at the same time, let me click on the Document tab. We see that there's actually another project copy checked out. From this perspective, the engineering manager can see the other project copy. For example, in this case, this is the master document. And clicking on the project copy shows us it's in the major construction project, and we can see what's going on with those. We can compare those documents as well. I'll compare this a little bit later on when we make changes to this document as part of our maintenance change. So I'm okay with that, and now we're going to go ahead and add this document to a work in progress project, which is a small work order project. From the context menu, the engineering manager can simply create a project copy. Now in this case, we're going to be creating, of course, a second project copy. The first one is in the major construction project. We're going to go ahead and make one in the work in progress, for example, a small work order project. So in this case, we're going to be making a second project copy. This dialog box is pretty interesting because the master document has a couple of CAD references. Pump and a vessel document are being referenced into it as a CAD reference. So in this case, we want to copy these guys into the project as well because they might change. And in this case, those are not going to change, and I'm going to leave them where they are. So that's very powerful to allow me to take those reference documents and put them into the project as well. Okay. So we'll let the system create our project copy. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and verify that we do indeed have 2 project copies. Remember earlier I used this construction icon, this master project browser, to show me the relationship between the master document, and now we have 2 project copies. And they're both connected to the same master document, and that's perfectly fine within Meridian's concurrent engineering functionality. So what we're going to do here at the same time, we mentioned earlier, we're going to take this document and assign it to a user. A lot of our customers have a document controller or a design manager that delegates the work. Sometimes our customers will take the drawing and start modifying themselves. Edit, or order. Okay. So now the document is ready to go, and the user can start changing it. Now, the user, I mentioned the user. Since we're going to say this is an engineering manager that's in the office that had just delegated the work, let's go ahead and exit this program, and let's see what email message a designer is going to get. So this is a potential notification that's being sent to the designer. And remember earlier our scenario, the designer is going to be working from home or remotely, for example. And in this case, they'll get a couple of links. For example, the web link in this case we'll use to jump to the document. And this is using the web client, and of course this can be, user can be anywhere, home, remote site, etc. And they'll understand that they need to work. And right from here, we'll go ahead and open the document. And it will take care of updating references for me, updating any kind of connections, updating metadata, and the user can now start making the changes. And we're going to make the changes in model space, so let me switch to model space. And let me zoom into the area we're going to make a change here. And the simple change we're going to make is simply removing this hand valve, and just press delete. That is done. And if we're done, and in this case the designer is finished, we'll zoom out, make sure things look okay. Things look okay in the layout, and if we need to, we can always update the vault or update the properties from Meridian directly from our CAD application. And this also works directly from the web application too. So let's close our document, and we'll minimize CAD because we're going to use it later. And as far as the designer is concerned, they're finished. They simply upload the document to the server and pass it on to the next step of the workflow. For example, in this case, we're going to go ahead and start the review. Now, the review process, of course, is going to depend on design done. The review process is going to depend on any kind of workflow process or workflow mechanism you guys have configured. In this case, I'm asking the designer to say, hey, what is this change for? It's for an as-built. And as far as the designer is concerned, they're done. They can close this card. For example, this document is now in review. And they can close this card and go on to work on other documents that are in their projects. And of course, using the navigation capabilities, they can filter and show only their documents and continue working. So let's leave the designer from their home office, and we'll go back to the corporate office where the engineering manager is checking their email, and we see that they are now the to-do person for this document, which is now revision C1, which now needs their approval. Very simply, we jump to the Power User Client, and again, these links put you directly on the document at hand. For example, in this case, it's our project document, and it just needs to be reviewed. Let me turn on the viewer to make sure the geometry is up to date. Yep, looks like the geometry is up to date from our designer. And in this case, what I'd like to do is compare the documents and see what kind of changes have been made, especially compared to the last released or even the next project that's out there. And to do this, I'm going to use the project browser again to show me, and I can compare now one project copy. I'm going to hold down the control key and highlight the next one. What needs to happen to this document to compare it to this document, which is my other project copy. In this case, we'll get a compare window that will show us the original document, which is the one that our drafter just changed in the top left, and the next project copy in the other window. And of course, in the third window, we'll see all the changes. I'm going to zoom into a part of it here, and we see that the valve that we removed is still in the other project copy. And we see the other project also added the other line and also removed another valve here. Very easy to see and compare. Also, the comparison goes beyond that. It goes into the properties as well. For example, we see the revision number has changed, and also the properties have changed. For example, title have changed, I see here. So all those comparisons are available. So we're done with that. Let's go ahead and close it out. And from the perspective of the manager, we're done, and we go ahead and approve this document. And this approval status is approved. We're done. So now we're ready to release it as a master. In this case, we're going to notify everyone that's interested, for example, the maintenance workers. Okay. In this case, we're going to go ahead and just tell the system to, there we go, to release the document as a master. And keep in mind that this is the very first document that's being released. The next project, we'll see that these options may change because we now have a new master. We'll get to those in a second. As soon as we do this, notice one thing that's happening in addition to all this discussion. Our project copy is actually automatically put into an archive location. This archive location can trigger your company's document retention rules. We'll go ahead and shrink this out in a second. And now we see our brand new revision, our brand new master, and we can see that this document now has one project copy checked out, which is the major construction project. And it's all red with all kinds of notifications that say, by the way, the master document has changed since this project copy was checked out, which is very important. Okay, so let me pause for a second. And
all right, so hopefully that gives you a good idea of how that process works. And now I want to jump ahead and show a couple of the, Chris is going to show a couple of the tools available to merge in those changes. So we're going to move to that area next.
We're done with email for a while, and here we are in Meridian looking at the latest master of this drawing. Excuse me. And we do see that we have project copy checked out still, and this is our major project copy, and we compared it as well. So we know we need to give it some attention before we release it. Now, the changes that have been incorporated here are the ones that came back from the contractor. So what I'd like to do is jump to this document, and what we need to do now is essentially merge the changes and then release this as a new master. Now, how do I know we need to merge the changes? Some of the concurrent engineering functionality that's implemented allows the user to check on this and be able to know what's going on with it. For example, I am not allowed to release this as a master just yet. That option is not available because we have a newer master than this project copy. That's very important. So what we need to do is confirm that we merge the geometry. And that's what we're going to do right now is merge the geometry. Let me switch back because that was actually one topic that compared.
So at that point, the merging is really an AutoCAD function where that main project copy is edited, copy, paste, edit, either from the new master or from the project copy. And then you can confirm that it has been brought up to date. So then you can continue on and then release it as a new master when you're done. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the tools and how that works. And hopefully that's ringing some bells with the kind of workflows that you do within your organization and some of the challenges that you have.